All right, how's that? Much better. Much better indeed. So, hi, my name is Waldo, and I am here to feel the politics with you, because that's important. So everybody needs to know that politics is all feelings, 100%, top to bottom. Everybody knows it. I'm the only one who will say it. Uh, so if you're here, if you're paying attention, hop into chat, say anything you'd like, shoot any opinions at me, throw any links you have to me, so that I can react and feel the politics with you. We can all feel good or bad, as long as we're feeling something, right? So, uh, I goofed up my headphones again. They goof up a lot anytime somebody uses the VR set. It tends to goof up the defaults, and that's a bad time. Nobody likes that. The VR headset does believe that it is the most important device on my computer, and it often becomes like self-aware and then changes the defaults to make it the most important part. All right. Well, going to minimize that thing. I doubt Thomas will be here today, but we can move on without him and do the normal headline roundup, stuff like that. So what we'll do today is take a look at the latest super fun headlines and stuff like that. Look at the feel them out. Have then move on to the 2025 Project 2025. Very exciting uh, book club that we've got, and see what else is going on. And as usual, if you got any links or anything like that, throw them in here, and we'll take a look. Let's get the screen started. There it is. All right. Ron DeSantis tried to make the Florida college conservative. Now the students are fleeing. Uh, uh, Governor Ron DeSantis attempted to make the new College of Florida right-wing indoctrination institution, and it appears to be failing, as the school has reported 27% of its students have dropped out. That's not good. You changed the way it operated, and then they left. And that's not a surprise. Uh, Far-right and anti-LGBTQ activist Christopher Rufo, who then proceeded to remove the college's president and appoint DeSantis as an administration official in his place. So Christopher Rufo, huge piece of shit. Fuck that guy. He's a bad guy. Uh, he wanted to make it into the Hillsdale of the South. That's not a good thing. Hillsdale is bad, and things that it teaches you aren't real. Hillsdale is a very famous, infamously conservative Christian college, and they teach you things that aren't real, and they teach you how to argue with liberals uh, in ways that make them seem wrong, but it doesn't make you right. It just makes them seem slightly wrong. That is the skill that they teach you when you go there. And he would like more of those. I would like less of those because that's the opposite of reality. But that's okay. This is what he wants. A hostile takeover of a liberal college was to provide an alternative for conservative families in the state of Florida to say there is a public university that reflects your values. Alternative, meaning not true, not factual, not correct. We would like to dictate our incorrect reality onto more people. That's what they're trying for. That's what they're going for. Mm-hmm. If we can take this high risk, high reward gambit and turn it into a victory, we're going to see conservative state legislators starting to reconquer public institutions all over the United States. Reconquer public institutions. I can't imagine that being a good thing. I can't imagine someone hearing that and being like, yeah. Students aren't going along with it. The new college interim uh, sent a report to the facility faculty this week. 186 of the students, 691 students left the college. Well, that's not a whole lot of students. 691 seems like very few, but 186 of them left, which is 27%. For comparison, 13 to 14% of the students left in the previous 2 years. So they're leaving and not coming back. Uh, this is the first report of people fleeing the school this year. Thiessen reported that 36 faculty members left the college in the previous year. 36 faculty members. The college only has 100 full-time faculty members. Left students wondering whether they could finish their degrees on time. So yeah, he's changed it and turned it into something ugly and gross, and people are leaving. Imagine that. you, uh, he's changed the uh, place of higher learning into a place of higher learning, and that makes people leave. Not a surprise. In May, DeSantis passed a law forbidding colleges and universities from spending state and federal funding on programs that promote political or social activism, or DEI. They really hate DEI. He also signed the Stop Woke Act, which forbids schools and businesses from offering educational programs on racism, gender-based discrimination. The law is currently on hold as a court considers its impact on constitutionally protected rights of free speech. So, the most important law that DeSantis has ever passed is still on hold because it's bad and anti-constitutional. It really is. He's the most important thing that DeSantis has ever done is the Stop Woke Act, and it is being held up by courts because it's unconstitutional. This is the guy. This is the guy they wanted to be president. The unconstitutionalist, Ron DeSantis. That Ron DeSantis pushing these Stop Woke Act ideas is all about control and nothing else. It is just control. The Republican conservative people of Florida do not want their children to learn anything that they don't want them to learn. Doesn't matter if it's true, doesn't matter if it's real, doesn't matter if it's correct or right. We don't like it. We don't want our children to see it. Doesn't matter how factually correct it is. They're against it. They're against it. Because they want their children to be exact carbon copy clones of themselves. It is very strange. It's very weird. I can't even imagine the idea of wanting that much control over your children. You don't own your children. Conservatives, Republicans, listen. You don't own your children. They are people. You shouldn't own them. And let's see. Oh, yeah. The House is still a mess. We still don't have a speaker, and it's still a mess. So, one, Speaker of the House must lie about the 2020 election. The GOP finds itself without a viable candidate for Speaker, in part because the party finds itself unable to tell the truth about Trump's election loss. So, Ken Buck, Republican, but we're going to try not to hold that against him for the moment, uh, wound up in a very disappointed when he asked the two GOP candidates for Speaker, Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, the answer to a simple question. Did Joe Biden win the 2020 election fair and square? Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan prevaricated and danced. The GOP-only meeting was behind closed doors, but Donald Trump would inevitably hear about it, so they refused to answer. In a closed-door meeting, this guy is afraid to tell the truth. Because if he does, Donald Trump will hear about it. Donald Trump doesn't like the truth, and he will come down on you if you tell the truth. Donald Trump, the anti-truth candidate. is controlling your House of Representatives. It's not good. They weren't direct. They evaded the question. I wasn't happy, so I voted present. And now we don't have a speaker. So it will continue to be chaos. It will continue to be broken, dysfunctional, and not very useful. So no surprise there. The Republican House members got elected promising chaos and promising dysfunction. And now they're bringing it to you. They they promised dysfunction. They promised to go to Washington and tear it all down, shake things up. But that just means that it won't function. This is the way that Republicans will govern from now on. This is the only thing they have. Tear it down, screw it up, stop it from doing anything, stop it working, make it stand still. Because we cannot have progress. That would be bad. The progressives would win. Cannot allow things to progress, anything. So the Democrats are refusing to help the GOP out of the House Speaker mess, thrashing Jim Jordan as an insurrectionist, and I think that is an excellent uh, description of him. This is an okay way to describe him. He did, in fact, have something to do with the insurrection. Democratic leaders spoke on the steps of the Capitol and dialed up their rhetoric against Republicans for nominating a conservative firebrand to be the next House Speaker. Let's see. House Republicans have selected as their nominee to be the Speaker of the House, Chairman of the Chaos Caucus, a defender in a dangerous way of dysfunction. Defender of dysfunction. Defender of dangerous dysfunction. Jim Jordan. An extremist extraordinaire. Who is Keem Jeffries? Spitting rhymes. Or alliteration. Let's see. Its focus has been on peddling lies and conspiracy theories and driving division among the American people. They've labeled Jim Jordan as an insurrectionist and said he would be on a glide path to becoming Speaker if not for the unified opposition of Democrats. That's fine. He is directly involved in the right-wing coup that sought to overturn the 2020 election. Every Republican who casts their vote for him is siding with an insurrectionist against our democracy. Ouch. And I can agree with that. Jim Jordan knew more about what was going on Jan 6. He knew it was coming, he knew what was happening during it, and he was talking to Donald Trump while it was happening. He pissed on the wheels of progress. He stood in the way of the government doing its legitimate constitutional duties because he would rather tear it down than let a milquetoast, middle of the road liberal like Joe Biden win. You can't you can't compromise with that kind of person. Jim Jordan is uncompromisable. He won't compromise for the best thing for the country. He won't jump on board with a middle of the road centrist idea. He won't. And that will harm you. It will harm us. It will harm all of us. Will Jim Jordan be indicted by Jack Smith? Excellent question. Maybe. Speaking of that stuff, maybe he will. Jim Jordan is moving closer to becoming the House Speaker, even though even as a former federal prosecutor, said that Jordan is an accessory after the fact to former President Donald Trump's alleged election rigging attempts. Let's see. Uh, I know there's a good one in here. if it could be shown that Jordan was part of a conspiracy to defraud the United States government of the sort charged against Trump in the D.C. indictment, and his false statements were made in furtherance of that conspiracy, the First Amendment would not preclude using his statements as evidence in an indictment. The only way they can possibly be criminal is if Jordan had joined a conspiracy to commit a crime, and his speech was intended to further the criminal objectives in that conspiracy. Jack Smith is going to determine whether or not that happened. Jack Smith is going to determine whether or not that happened. It might have. It could have, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I'm quite sure they've been investigating the insurrectionists in Congress. Jack Smith can't turn a blind eye to all of that. So, the other thing that Jim Jordan has absolutely been doing is trying to cover up and prevent Donald Trump from being held accountable for his crimes. In a very real sense, he's been an accessory after the fact to Donald Trump's crimes. Yeah. He's been using the power and authority he has within Congress to cover those things up, to keep them quiet, because he is also responsible. And he's worried, Jim Jordan is worried, that if Donald Trump is found responsible and criminally liable, or criminally guilty of the insurrection and the Jan 6 stuff, if Jack Smith brings solid charges and convicts him on it, then you'll have to determine who else helped him, who helped cover it up. That includes Jim Jordan. And he does not like that idea of being held responsible for his actions. Republicans never like that idea. Do not hold them responsible for their actions. Ooh, they hate that idea. They don't want it. So they will use every bit of power, authority, and money they have to prevent it from happening. Jim Jordan was deeply involved in Donald Trump's anti-democratic efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Jordan also helped organize congressional opposition to counting Biden's certified electoral votes. None of Jordan's efforts were rooted in legitimate objections. He simply sought to keep Donald Trump in power, contrary to the will of the American people. There it is. If you don't vote the way Jim Jordan wants you to vote, he will use his power, authority, and money to suppress you. You, right there, listening. The millions of voters, millions of people that are paying attention, obviously. Jim Jordan will use his power, his authority, and his state, his authority given to him by the state and by the Constitution, by the House of Representatives, to stop you from voting and having your vote counted. Why do we allow him to be in charge? Why do we allow him to be in charge? He shouldn't be. Oh, but Waldo, both sides are the same. No, they're not. Both sides are not the same. It's obvious right here. Look at that. Fetterman calls on full Senate uh, to expel Menendez after a new charge. So Fetterman, a Dem, is calling for the Senate to expel Menendez, also a Dem, because he's charged for crimes. Let's see. Senator Menendez should not be a U.S. Senator. I agree. He should have gone long ago, and it's time for every one of my colleagues in the Senate to join me in expelling Senator Menendez. I agree. This is good, because both sides are not the same. If both sides were the same, you would see these senators covering up and trying to prevent any investigation into Menendez, or covering up of his crimes, or saying that it's okay, or convincing you that Donald Trump actually did it. Both sides are not the same. One side is far worse. We cannot have an alleged foreign agent in the United States Senate. This is not a close call. Fetterman's smart and correct, and I really like what he has to say. indictment filed by the U.S. Attorney. Noted between 20 and 22, Menendez made multiple requests for the Justice Department and investigate other persons of failing to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Yeah. We can't trust Mr. Menendez, so he needs to go. Hannity loses it at Ramaswamy over his comments on Israel. You do this in every single interview. You say the stuff and then you deny it and you deny your own words. I said this about Ramaswamy weeks ago. Let's see what good old Sean Hannity has to say about him. Probably the same thing I had to say about him. Come on. Damn internet. No desktop audio. Of course not. Of course not. Okay, let's try this. Oops, no. More tech fails. Man, I am all over the tech fails today. Let's see if this does it. Nope. Not that. I have too many items plugged in. I'm worried. No, well, this might do it. Let's try this one.
We saw this, by the way, in our first hour. We heard from 2024 presidential candidate Nikki Haley. She joined us and had this to say about her GOP rival who attacked her, Vivek Ramaswamy. Take a look.
I don't trust him. I don't think that he has any credibility. He throws these things, he blames and says everybody's bought and paid for with no evidence whatsoever. It's why I think he's sinking in the polls. And, you know, quite honestly, his comments on Israel disqualified him for me a long time ago. And so, you know, it doesn't bother me what he says.
All right, here now to respond, 2024 Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is with us. You know, I was a little surprised. I know you were on with Tucker, and I'm open to anybody's opinion, but you kind of, what you're doing here is saying about Nikki Haley is you're saying that her concern for Israel is driven by financial and a corrupting influence, and your explanation that this disproportionate focus on rape, kidnapping, and murder of the Jewish people in this attack, and that there, and your quote, that there are frankly financial and corrupting influences that lead them exactly to speak the way they do.
Sean, that is a shameful mischaracterization. When I'm talking about Azerbaijan
stop right now.
and
I'll
Armenia.
Read the exact you do this in every single interview. You say stuff and then you deny it. You deny your own words.
You say stuff and then you deny it. You deny your own words. This is what I said about Vivek a month ago.
So, you know, why don't you just own what you say and stand by it and stop playing these games?
I am owning what I say, Sean.
Well, I'm just telling you what you say.
I am owning what I say. Well, I'm telling you,
you're a smart
people can watch
guy.
that Tucker interview on Twitter and
say.
X anytime they want. Yeah, I absolutely do. And so, Sean, maybe we have a debate that we need to have in our party. What's happening in Azerbaijan and Armenia was a separate discussion that I had, and I do believe that it is shameful that Azerbaijan is getting away with what they are because they have a powerful lobby in the U.S. But it is shameful to extrapolate that to the comments in Israel, where, to be honest, I have been crystal clear that what's happened is barbaric. It is medieval. It is wrong. And Israel absolutely said this since day one, say it now, has the right to defend itself to the fullest extent. Where I differ from other candidates in this field is that I also believe that this is Israel's decision to make. The U.S. should stand with Israel. But we need to be very careful not to enter a broader regional war in the Middle East.
I have not
That
heard
is
a single.
mistake
I have
we
not
made
heard a
in this
single
country in the
Republican,
past.
Vivek. I've not heard a single Republican call for that. But I really want an explanation here. No. I want an explanation to the. Can I finish? I want an exact explanation for your exact comments that there are, frankly, financial and corrupting influences that lead them exactly to speak the way that they do. Now, why would you say, what are the financial corrupting influences that Nikki Haley is taking a position on? We've got pictures of dead.
Okay. So yeah, that's Vivek saying one thing on one day and saying something completely different on a different day, tweeting out X and then saying not X later, because that's what, it doesn't matter. He gets current literal politics right now. He gets it. He gets that the accusation is all that matters. He recognizes that if he just goes out there, says a whole bunch of things, gets a whole bunch of attention, and then gets a few votes, that's the point. That's how it works. It's not about being long-term consistent all the time. No, it's about the spectacle right now. Vivek comprehends. Spectacle is politics. Make people feel the thing that you want them to feel right now and make them feel something else tomorrow. It doesn't matter. As long as you're making them feel the right thing right now, that's what you need to do. And this is what I said about Vivek a month ago after that first debate. He says one thing, then he says the opposite of that thing later, because he doesn't care. It doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter to Vivek. It doesn't matter. The allegation matters. The allegation that these people are bought and paid for is all that matters. He said that he insinuated that everybody on the stage is bought and paid for by somebody. He didn't say who, because it doesn't matter who, because it's not real, it's not true. It doesn't matter who. Just get the people to doubt your opponent. That's it. That's all you got to do. And it is the Trump playbook. It really is. Vivek is running the Trump playbook, and he might become rich and famous because of it. He might get elected, or he might get onto a cabinet position with Donald Trump, something along those lines. I think that's what he's aiming for, honestly, is to be Trump's VP or to be in Trump's cabinet so that he can then leverage that power and that authority to get more power and more authority, and then change the rules again and again and again, so that, and make as many accusations as he wants, so that he can benefit and his friends can benefit. Not you, not the people, not America benefiting. No, he benefits. And that is the Trump playbook, which is why I don't like him. Here's the latest news. Trump loses first of several bids to toss suit seeking to block him from Colorado ballot. So there is a little bit of argument that because Donald Trump did an insurrection on January 6th, that he is now incapable and not allowed by the Constitution to run for president. The state of Colorado is looking at that, and they didn't shoot it down immediately. So there might be a chance that it happens. President Donald Trump lost his first of several attempts to throw out a lawsuit seeking to block him from the 2024 presidential ballot in Colorado, based on the 14th Amendment's prohibition against insurrectionists holding public office. So there might be a scenario where you're not able to vote for him in Colorado. This will most definitely go to the Supreme Court. And I think they're going to be on Donald Trump's side because they do whatever they want. They just are the high priests of our country who decide whenever they want, whatever they want, and will make up a justification later. They will say, this is what we want. Here's the justification. Deal with it. They won't follow the proper scientific method to come to an ending point. No, they're going to start from the end point, work backward with justifications from some 17th century fucking law book, and they'll just tell you it's originalism, unless it isn't. Unless originalism happened in the 1950s, in which case that's originalism. Originalism is just whatever they want it to be. The trial to determine Trump's eligibility is set for October 30th. That's 15 days away. If the case reaches that stage, Colorado election officials say there's a hard deadline to resolve the dispute before January 5th, when the ballot printing process begins, or March 5th Republican primary. So they have to know whether or not he is eligible before January 5th. Because if he isn't eligible and he's on the ballot, then somebody will sue and say, hey, this guy's not eligible, but he got 12% of the vote. What are we going to do with those votes? It's a mess. And it's a mess on purpose because they want it to be a mess. If it's a mess, Republicans can possibly climb the ladder that chaos is. Chaos is a ladder. They will try and climb it. If it's a mess and they fail, then they can claim that they were persecuted, that they were unfairly harmed by the process. If they climb the ladder, they climb the ladder. If they don't, then it's the Democrats' fault. And you shouldn't vote for them. And they will cause more chaos. They will cause more chaos to hopefully climb the ladder again. I liked what she had to say. In a 22-page ruling, Wallace said she wasn't swayed by Trump's argument that the lawsuit seeks to improperly restrict his rights. The court has no difficulty concluding that it is to the benefit of the general public, regardless of political affiliation. Only constitutionally qualified candidates are placed on the ballot. Only constitutionally qualified candidates are on the ballot. So we need to know before the ballots are made, before the ballots are printed, before we decide who is on them, who is constitutionally qualified and who is not. Makes sense? But Republicans don't like sense. She added that resolving the question of Trump's eligibility is particularly important because he is seeking the highest office in the country, and the disqualification sought is based on allegations of insurrection against the very government over which he seeks to preside. Obviously, he's promised to ruin the government. You can't let him run as a politician to be in charge of the government. Let's see. What else we got? Still in the Trump news, Trump campaign staffers can air their grievances after 2016 campaign NDA agreements officially voided by judge. I don't know what this one is. I didn't read this. It just popped up. I wanted to look at it. Air their grievances. I don't. Just complaining? Officially voiding terms of their NDAs. They had NDAs that they couldn't complain about things that he was doing. It's very strange. Anything deemed confidential by the campaign was off limits, but what confidential meant was ill-defined, and according to Denson, it could mean discussing anything related to the personal or business affairs of Trump and his family, and not just while in the campaign's employ, but effective in perpetuity. That's weird drama llama stuff. We'll see if anything pops out of it, pops out from it. I'll keep my eye on it, but it seems just like drama llama stuff. And keep the Trump train running. The same people that raided. Okay, I got to do his voice. Hang on. The same people that raided Israel are pouring out into our once beautiful USA through our totally open southern border at record numbers. That is not true at all. Can't see the graphic here. Here's the graphic. Pants on fire. Not true at all. Here's the facts, the actual correctness. People aren't crossing the southern border to conduct terrorist attacks or take over parts of the United States. An expert told us a small percentage may commit crimes, such as selling drugs, but most come for jobs and political freedom. Man, this is why I'm on board. This is why I do actually support having open borders. The reason they're coming here is to sell drugs, which is just capitalism, honestly. What is capitalism if not selling drugs to people? Uh, there's a demand for drugs. They have the supply. Sell them. Make a profit. Capitalism, baby. And political freedom. That's the other reason they come here, is because the places they are from do not give them the freedoms that we have in America. So they want to be Americans. This is good. This is great. This suggests that we have a good working positive system. Um, if you're coming here for capitalism and freedom, that's a good thing if we like those things. Republicans say they love capitalism, say they love freedom, but when someone asks for it, they say no. That Republicans will tell you that this is the greatest, most freest country in the world, in the history of the world. This is the greatest country in the world, greatest, most prosperous, best, most pro. Sorry. Republicans will tell you that this is the greatest country in the history of the world. But when people ask to come here, they'll say no. It's a country built by immigrants. We have a Statue of Liberty welcoming in all the immigrants. And then the immigrants ask, can we come? And they say no. No. You can't come here. You'll ruin our freedom and our economy. But that's exactly why they're coming here. The immigrants are coming here to participate in the economy and the freedom. So if you like those things, you would welcome them. And this is why I support open immigration and relatively open borders. I mean, I don't want anybody walking across, but anybody who does should have the freedom to do so. And then once they are here, they can register and be an American. I want that list of people who are Americans I want that process to be real quick. Because that strengthens us. It increases the value of our country. So this is his full thing right here. The same people that raided Israel are pouring into our once beautiful USA through our totally open southern border at record numbers. Are they planning an attack within our country? Crooked Joe Biden and his boss Barack Hussein Obama did this to us. The accusation is all that matters for Republican types. For Donald Trump, the only thing that matters is the accusation. Is this a true sentence? The same people that raided Israel are pouring into our once beautiful USA. No, not true. Absolutely, categorically, completely incorrect. But it does not matter to him. It does not matter to his fans. The accusation is all that matters. The imaginary accusation that this is happening will spur them to action. Totally open southern border. Is that factually correct? Absolutely not factually correct. Doesn't matter. They don't want reality. They don't want facts. They want the feelings that they have to be, what's the word? Shit. Validated by the person that they like the most. At record numbers, probably also not true. Are they planning an attack within our country? No, they're not here. They're not doing that. Crooked Joe Biden, who isn't crooked, and his boss, Barack Hussein Obama, did this. Barack Obama doesn't have anything to do with this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 lies in this one sentence. The man is lying on a level that very few other people can. What else was in the news today? Okay, so I just bumped into this one the other day. The rights war on birth control is already starting. New conservative incrementalism wants to erode access to birth control and lay the groundwork for a future ban. Not a surprise, they want to control everything and everyone. Let's see. This is just about conscience arguments and old abortion arguments. Uh, the ADF is different from its first generation of anti-abortion groups. It is openly Christian and focuses on issues beyond reproduction. It has also made conscience arguments even more central to its work through Masterpiece Cake Shop and 303 Creative. If you don't know what those are, you can read up on them. Maybe I'll do a video about them in the future, but it's basically, I don't want to work for people with different politics than me. I don't want to provide services to people with different political ideas than me. And they're allowed to. They're allowed to discriminate based on those things. It's insane. The ADF played a central role in fighting the contraceptive mandate for the Affordable Care Act, which requires employers to cover all FDA-approved contraceptives without a copay. In 2014's Burwell versus Hobby Lobby, ADF defended employers who believed that common contraceptives, including IUDs and the money after pill, were abortifacients. The group has framed this cause as a fight for pluralism. Just as the law should not force anyone not to use contraception, the law should not force employees to subsidize a pill they believe to kill a rights-holding fetal person. So their argument changes the definition of certain things, suggests that IUDs are killing a rights-holding fetal person. That is a shitty way to change the definitions, you know? They've changed it from fetus to a rights-holding fetal person. So they've changed the definition to facilitate their feelings. This isn't some factual argument they're making. Facts have gone out the window a long time ago. It is only feelings now. They feel like it's bad to do, so they will control you and stop you from doing it. And they couldn't convince people of this. So what they've done is they've had corporations try to defund the things. So this, I think this important part right here, where was it? Something important here I wanted to look at. Dang it, it was employer subsidies. Employers subsidizing. I swear I read it earlier. Yeah, here we go. Employers subsidizing. Employers subsidizing. Once Citizens United made corporations people, those people then started to have feelings. And those feelings became political concerns. So if you allow Citizens United to make corporations into people, they are now people with feelings. And those feelings are, we don't like abortion, we don't like contraceptive, so we don't have to pay for them. But they're a gigantic corporation with thousands of employees who have to pay into Medicare and Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. So now they're exempt from certain things based on sincerely held delusions. The delusions that a company has aren't real, but they get to affect real people. We are no longer controlled by facts, logic. We never have been. We won't be in the near future. All there are is feelings. And the feelings of the board of Hobby Lobby feels like Hobby Lobby itself, the person, feels like they shouldn't be paying for these things. And so they go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, says, you know what? You feel it. You have a sincerely held delusion. We will respect that. Well, I, for one, Waldo, does not respect sincerely held delusions. What is this? New California law raises minimum wage to $25 an hour for California healthcare workers. So this is a good thing. They were striking because they want us to be paid more, and now they are. This is good. This is Gavin Newsom doing a good thing. Dems will get you more money. Being part of a union and doing a strike will get you paid more. That's why you should support them. That's why we should all like unions. Newsom signing the law means medical technicians, nursing assistants, custodians, and other support staff will see a gradual wage hike that rolls out starting next year. He got behind the law on the same day that the unions representing lower paid Kaiser Permanente employees announced a new contract with a $25 minimum wage, the healthcare's giant California workers. Today, California is putting a stop to the hemorrhaging of our care workforce by ensuring health care workers can do the work they love and pay their bills. Huge win for workers and patients seeking care. Okay. Yes. Pay people more, pay CEOs less. Pay people more, pay CEOs less. Wild idea. Pay your workers more, pay your CEOs less. Easy. Oh good, more war stuff. Here we go. Palestinians flee northern Gaza after Israel orders 1 million to evacuate as ground attack looms. So what's going to happen here? The people with the bombs have said, you 1 million people, which is I think half their population, need to leave this area because we're going to bomb it. One, it's incredibly difficult to move 1 million people. Two, those 1 million people who can't leave or don't leave are going to die in a bombing raid. Three, the Israelis will then come in with their ground troops and take all that land. So if you die, they'll take your land. If you leave, they'll take your land, and they will not give it back. They are going to expand their borders. Israel is going to expand their borders, expand their area of ownership. They're going to expand their sphere of influence until there is no more Palestine. That's called ethnic cleansing. And that's what they're doing. Palestinians fled in a mass exodus Friday from northern Gaza after Israel's military told 1 million people to evacuate from the southern part of the besieged territory ahead of an expected ground invasion in retaliation for the surprise attack by the ruling Hamas militant group. The UN warned that evacuating almost half of the crowded Gaza population would be calamitous, and it urged Israel to reverse the unprecedented directive. As airstrikes hammered the territory throughout the day, families in cars, trucks, and donkey carts packed with possessions streamed down the road out of Gaza City. Hamas told people to ignore the evacuation order, and families in Gaza faced what they saw was a no-win decision to leave or stay. With no safe ground anywhere, hospital staff said they couldn't abandon patients. Israel is going to bomb hospitals filled with nurses who won't abandon their patients. I put out a video earlier this morning. It's a bad guy fight. Both sides are bad. Both sides are wrong. In the 1940s, the Jewish people in that part of the world used British guns and American backing to do an ethnic cleansing. They pushed all those Palestinian people off of their land, and then the Palestinian people were ethnically cleansed and then put under apartheid. If you've been ethnically cleansed and you're under apartheid and you're forced to live within a very small border, and the Israeli people control the water, control the electricity, control the food, control the aid, control what comes in and out of that place. It's a prison. It's just a very, very large concentration camp. Maybe not a concentration. It's a very, yeah, it is. It is. It is a concentration camp. It is a very large concentration camp. And when the people in there don't like what's happening, what do? Can they use their free speech to protest it? No, they don't have free speech. They cannot protest. They do not have a First Amendment allowing them to peacefully discuss the ideas of what's going to happen to them. They do not have the freedom to fix their own system. They do not have the freedom to change what's happening around them. They don't. They're not allowed to. And if they try to speak, they get shut down. If they try to protest, they get shut down, sometimes violently. If they try to fight, they get shot and killed. And this is what's happening. If you leave no room for diplomacy, you will create violence. No, okay, sorry. If you give those people no chance for diplomacy, they will be violent. That's it. If you don't have a route for diplomacy, if you don't have a route for diplomacy, violence will occur. And what do we do with that violence? Well, Israel says we will end that violence by ending these people. So they will end these people. That's what's going to happen. Palestinians are going to be extinct soon because those 1 million are going to have to move and be in a smaller. They're going to shrink. They have this much space right now, and they're going to have this much space, and then this much space is going to be the current concentration camp, and then they're going to fight, and then they're going to start throwing more missiles out, and then they're going to have this much space, and then they're going to have this, and then they're going to be gone. And the Israeli plan of extermination of these people will be complete. I mean, what's that definition of peace where all your enemies are dead? Isn't that a thing? I mean, yeah, there will be no more war, and the war will have ended because they will have killed all of the Palestinians. They will all be dead. Uh, Forget about food, forget about electricity, forget about fuel. The only concern now is if you'll make it and if you're going to live. They're they're going to bomb this place. Get out of the place. And then they're going to take that place and keep it forever. And if you don't like it, they will violently harm you. Let's see. 1 point mil. The UN said that the Israeli military call for civilians to move south affects 1.1 million people. If carried out, that would mean the territory's entire population would have to cram into the southern half of the 40 kilometers, 25-mile strip. So half of your people have to move into the other half of the country, doubling your population density, But a lot of them aren't going to go because they're going to die on the trip, or they're going to die in the bombing, and they're not going to make it in time. All right, so what is next? The next thing up is the Project 2025 book club. Make it a little bit bigger. Make sure it's centered in the screen. Yep, there it is. All right, book club. Let's continue our reading of Project 2025. It is a very scary, holiday, spooky, Halloween-themed book. It was written by a bunch of conservatives who have a very strange connection to reality, a very limited connection to reality. They tend to think things that are incorrect. They tend to type things and write stuff that is not based on facts, but yet they will tell you that it is. It's not, it's just their feelings. They often call it common sense, but when a Republican conservative type tells you common sense, what it actually means is that's how they feel. So we're going to get a lot of Republican feelings here in this document. I'll read the interesting opinion-y type parts, and then I'll skip over the very bad, awful, wonky policy positions because they are a little bit dry and boring. So, the Department of Education by Lindsay M. Burke. They hate the Department of Education. They really hate it because it suggests what is correct and what is real. This is antithetical to Republican thought. Education is antithetical to Republican thought. The federal education policy should be limited, and ultimately, the Federal Department of Education should be eliminated. First sentence, eliminated. When power is exercised, it should empower students and families, not government. How does the Department of Education empower the government? Like, it is just a handful of, it is a department full of people trying to determine whether or not the things that we're teaching the people are correct. Because you can be taught the wrong things, and then you can go on living your life believing the wrong things, and then working towards making the wrong things implemented. In our pluralistic society, families and students should be free to choose from a diverse set of school options and learning environments that best fits their needs. No. So Republicans love the idea of school choice, but school choice leads to one thing, and that is segregation. School choice means they want the ability to abandon the poor people and abandon the minorities. That is what school choice means. When a Republican tells you they support school choice, what they mean is, I want the choice to abandon the school that has poor people and minorities in it. That's what they want. They want the ability, because they have more privilege, they want the ability to go to a richer school with more white people. That is what school choice means when a Republican is telling it to you, when they're explaining this to you, when they're trying to convince you that we need school choice. What they mean is to abandon the poor people and the minorities, who are generally poor, statistically. Why do they want to do that? Because they're bigots, but what other reason? Because they want the... Why would they want to do that? because well, obviously they're bigots, but um, they can't just say that we don't like poor people, we don't like black people. They have to call it something else. You have to dog whistle. You have to call it something else. So it's school choice. Um, Only the privileged people have the ability to go to a different school. If the school nearest you is poor and filled with brown people, they can't, those poor and brown people cannot spend extra time in the morning going to a school that is 30 miles away. If you have privilege, if you have money, if you have uh, a uh, more forgiving work schedule, if you can work with your employer and say, hey, I've got to take my kids to school and I will be here afterward, and it might take an extra 30 minutes, you have privileges because you're most likely more wealthy. Poor people don't get to argue their schedule with their work managers. The work manager tells them when to be there exactly. And if they aren't, they're fired. And then they're even more destitute than they were before. School choice is a privilege of the upper class. And if the upper class gets what they want, they will abandon the lower class. They will abandon the minorities and leave them at a lower level where they cannot escape. So school choice is not a good thing. Being against school choice, as I am, forces some of those richer people, some of those people with more privilege, to be in the same room as poor people and minorities. And because they're in the same room, the entire school needs to be funded. And if it can be funded, it can be improved. If it can't be funded, it will only get worse and worse and worse. If the schools, if school choice goes through the way the Republicans want it, the rich people will leave, the privileged people will leave, and that will lower the population within the failing, underperforming, underfunded school with just poor people, just minorities, just people who cannot spend an extra half hour driving in the morning. That will lower the amount of money that goes to that school, and it will continue to fail. It will crater. It will just shoot straight down. The line goes down because the lower the population, lower the uh, people who could be there, lower the amount of money that's coming in. That lowers the amount of money they have for teachers. That lowers the teaching quality. That lowers the quality of the equipment, and it all goes straight down the tubes. And then they will look at that and say, look, see, this is what we left. You took all the good stuff with you. You're almost pillaging the school at this point. Anyway, where are we? So school choice, bad idea. Our post-secondary institutions should also reflect such diversity, with room for not only traditional liberal arts colleges and research universities, but also faith-based institutions. Faith-based institutions. Fuck off. Your faith is nonsense. It is not real. It is a feeling you have that does not fit any longer with the society that exists. Career schools and military academies and lifelong learning programs. Okay. Elementary and secondary education policy should follow the path outlined by Milton Friedman in 1955, wherein education is publicly funded, but education decisions are made by families. No, families are stupid. Do you have a stupid family member? I do. Are they completely misinformed about what the world actually is? They sure are. Do you know anybody like that in your family? I bet you do. Ultimately, every parent should have the option to direct his or her child's share of education funding through an education savings account, funded overwhelmingly by state and local taxpayers, which would empower parents to choose a set of education options that meets their child's unique needs. See, this is also a dumb idea. Education savings accounts will be on the market. Take that government thing that teaches everybody equally and turn it into a money-making racket. That is what Republicans want. They want to commodify and privatize the education system from K through 12 because there's a gigantic amount of money leaving taxpayers going into these schools to teach the taxpayers' children. This is a good idea because an educated populace helps all of us. It makes us all feel good. It makes us all better. It makes us all smarter. Republicans don't want that. They hate that. They don't like it. They don't want it. What they want is access to all that money so that they can keep it and have it themselves. Republicans do not want to spend that money on education. They want to skim a profit margin from it. Private schools operate on a profit margin. And if increasing that profit margin means cutting from the students, they will. This is the future that conservatism will bring you. It will bring you paying to go to school, and the majority of that the money that you pay to go to that school is going to go to the school's CEO. They're going to CEOify kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Your fourth grade student, you're going to have to pay to have them in there. They're going to learn about the Bible, and then the money that you pay goes to the CEO. How is that a good system? Why would you want that? Why would you want that? They want it because they own the schools. The people in charge and owning the market are telling you that education needs to be in the market. The people who own the market, who are on top of the market, are telling you that the education system needs to be in the market, needs to be free market, so that they can make a profit. The future of education, freedom, and reform in the United States is bright and will shine brighter when regulations and red tape from Washington are eliminated. So, what are these regulations and red tape? Washington regulations and red tape are asking the schools to prove that they're teaching real things correctly. Republicans do not want real things taught correctly. They want the Bible and conservatism. And regulations and red tape prevent that. So they hate the regulations and the red tape. Federal money is inevitably accompanied by rules and regulations that keep the influx of funds from having much, if any, impact on our students' outcomes. It raises the cost of education without raising student achievement. I think that's kind of true, but it's because the schools themselves, generally colleges, are incredibly greedy. If it costs $100 to do something for the student, and the government gives the college $100, the college will change the pricing to be $200. They'll keep the $100 from the government, put it in their pocket, and then they'll still charge the student $100, and they won't increase the teaching. They won't increase the product they are pumping out because they're greedy. Education for profit is a scam. Paying the teachers, paying to upkeep the facility is acceptable. But if they have a board, if they have shareholders, if they have a CEO, those people are going to steal as much of the money as they can. And if the government funds that, they will steal all that and then keep charging the students. Mm, Let me see. There was something in here that I wanted to look at. Okay, so here's their bullet points on what they want. Advancing education freedom. Empowering families to choose among a diverse set of education options is key to reform and improved outcomes. And it can be achieved without establishing a new federal program. How? That doesn't even make any sense. For example, portability of existing federal education spending to fund families directly, or allowing federal tax credits to encourage voluntary contributions to K through 12. Voluntary contributions to K through 12 education savings accounts managed by charitable nonprofits could significantly advance educational choice. I almost can't even say it without laughing. Voluntary contributions. So it's one of those voluntary taxes. You know how many voluntary taxes get paid? None. And it's going into an education savings account managed by charitable nonprofits who will steal all of that money. They'll just take it. Take all that money that we're putting in education now, put it in the free market so the CEOs can steal it. So that the people who own the market can simply take it. It's what they did with Social Security. That's what they're suggesting for Social Security. Put it on the market. Then it'll grow. No, then it will be stolen by Wall Street. Providing education choice for federal children. Congress has a special responsibility to children who are connected to military families, who live in the District of Columbia, or who are members of sovereign tribes. Responsibility for serving these students should be housed in agencies that are already serving these families. So that's one reason not to do school choice, is because the federal children do not have a chance. They don't have a choice. And that's all he's saying. This isn't saying much. Restoring state and local control over education funding. As Washington begins to downsize its intervention in education, existing funding should be sent to states as grants over which they have full control, enabling states to put federal funding toward any lawful education purpose under state law. No. State and local control will lead to state and local learning. If Florida wants to teach that the Civil War was correct and the South was the good guys, they will teach that. If Utah wants to teach the Mormon version of history, which is very, very, very wrong, it is incorrect, it is factually incorrect, the Mormon version of history, they will. Do you, non-Mormon, living in Utah, minority that you are, want your children being taught an incorrect version of history? Of course not. Nobody wants that. But Republicans want it because chaos is a ladder. They want the chaos. They want the misunderstanding. They want people to argue over what is real so that they can benefit themselves. Don't like what Utah has to say? Leave. That's the nefarious plan. Also with Florida, but I'll get to that in a minute. Treating taxpayers like investors in federal student aid. See? Investors. Taxpayers should expect their investments in higher education to generate economic productivity. When the federal government lends money to individuals for a post-secondary education, taxpayers should be expected, those borrowers, to repay. No, I mean, you can expect them to repay, yes. But if the product that the colleges are pumping out is under the value of the amount that they're charging for it, don't repay them. The federal government should use their power to not pay for that. If the federal government gives a college $10,000 to educate a citizen, that citizen comes out uneducated and unable to get a job and afford to pay the loan back, the government should look at that college and say, no, we are not going to pay you. This student isn't going to pay. The government isn't going to pay. You have failed to deliver, Mr. College. You should not be paid. That's fine. I respect that. Protecting the federal student loan portfolio from predatory politicians, the new administration must end the practice of acting like the federal student loan portfolio is a campaign fund to curry political support and votes. The new administration must end abuses in the loan forgiveness program. Borrowers should be expected to repay their loans. No, fuck off. Safeguarding civil rights. Enforcement of civil rights should be based on proper understanding of those laws, rejecting gender ideology and critical race theory. They really hate these things. Rejecting critical ideology. Oh, sorry. Rejecting gender ideology and critical race theory. You know why they reject? Do you know why they reject critical race theory and gender ideology? Because it's real, because it is correct, and because it is right. Republicans do not want what is real, correct, or right. They want their feelings validated. They do not want to be correct. They want their feelings to be validated by the people that they think are important. They want their feelings to be the facts. Stopping executive overreach. Congress should set policy, not presidents, through pen and phone executive orders, and not agencies through regulations and guidance. National emergency declarations should expire absent express congressional authorization within 60 days after the date of the declaration. I don't know what they're going for here. This is just weird. I don't know why they threw that part in there. And then I think this is these are statistics that are probably true, but weirdly chosen, like trends in 4th and 8th grade reading. Why 4th and 8th? Is 7th not proving your point, so you're not going to show it? That's what I suspect. Lying with statistics is a thing that can and does happen. 4th grade reading scores. And then we just go into specific policy changes that they want to make. This is the long, slow, boring part that I read over, but isn't very interesting. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with bad outcomes. You know, what do Republicans want? They want to control what you see, what you think, and they want to control how your children are taught. That control is because they are terrified that an educated populace will abandon them. It happens in the colleges. This is why the colleges are liberal bastions, because the more you know, the less likely you are to be a Republican. And they know this. They don't say it, but they know it. They feel like this, like education, tends to, well, they know that people who are educated don't vote Republican. They feel like people should vote Republican, so they feel like they should control what those children are learning. That is the end point for them. That is their plan. That is their purpose. That is the direction that they will go. So, yeah, money and power. As usual, money and power. They want the power over the government. They can't have it because the people who they want to vote for them don't. Well, okay, they want the power. They can't get it because the people won't vote for them. They want the money, but they can't have it because the government put it into a department. So make the department a public thing. Now, make the department a private thing on the market so that our CEOs can steal all that money. And make the education go down at the same time so that more people vote Republican. It is nefarious, it is insidious, and it is a bad thing that the conservatives and the Republicans want for your children. They will ruin the country if they're allowed to push this school choice idea. And they don't care because they'll be on top of the ruin. That is all for me today. I've gone, it's an hour and a half, so that's not too bad. I went over all the stuff. Feel free to, if you're watching, feel free to hop into chat, shoot links, go to the Discord and or the YouTube page. And I appreciate anybody who watched. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for saying hello. Thanks for giving me ideas. And have a good day.